My wealthy mother-in-law bought my husband a $90,000 sports car for his birthday, but gave me a $15 vacuum cleaner. I smiled and thanked her. What she didn't know was that I just inherited $8 million from my late father's business partner. When she found out 3 months later, her face went white, and she actually got on her knees begging. But by then, it was too late. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The gift sat on our kitchen counter in its deliberate, insulting simplicity. A vacuum cleaner, not even wrapped, just sitting there in the original box with a sticky bow slapped on top. "Mom wanted me to give you this," Daniel said, not quite meeting my eyes. "For your birthday." I stared at it. A Hoover upright, the kind you'd find on sale at Target for $79.99, though the price tag had been carefully removed. "She got you a vacuum cleaner," I said slowly, making sure I'd heard him correctly. "She said you mentioned the old one wasn't working well." Daniel was using his diplomatic voice, the one that meant he knew this was wrong, but wasn't going to do anything about it. "She thought it would be practical." Through our living room window, I could see Daniel's new car in the driveway. A Mercedes-AMG GT, $73,000, according to the price I'd accidentally seen on the paperwork Daniel had left on his desk. His mother, Patricia Hartwell, had given it to him 2 months ago for his 35th birthday. She'd thrown a party at her country club. 60 people, catered dinner. Champagne that cost more per bottle than my monthly grocery budget. The car had been parked in front with an enormous red bow, and Patricia had made a speech about celebrating my son's success and supporting the lifestyle he deserves. I'd stood in the corner in a dress I'd bought on sale from Nordstrom Rack, smiling while people oohed and awed over the car, while Patricia's friends asked Daniel about his promotion at the law firm, while no one asked me anything at all. Now it was my 32nd birthday, 2 months later, and my gift was a vacuum cleaner that cost approximately 1,000th of what she'd spent on her son. "It's very practical," I said, my voice carefully neutral. Daniel looked relieved that I wasn't making a scene. "I knew you'd understand. Mom always says you're so sensible about these things." Sensible. That was Patricia's word for me. Sensible Clara, who worked as a freelance graphic designer from home. Sensible Clara, who wore jeans and t-shirts instead of the designer labels Patricia preferred. Sensible Clara, who'd grown up middle class in Ohio instead of attending prep schools in Connecticut like Daniel had. Sensible Clara, who apparently deserved a vacuum cleaner for her birthday. "I should call and thank her," I said. "That would be nice. She'll appreciate it." I waited until Daniel left for work the next morning. Then I stood in our kitchen looking at the vacuum cleaner for a long time. This wasn't the first slight. It was just the most blatant. There had been 3 years of smaller cuts. The Christmas when Patricia gave Daniel a Rolex and gave me a gift card to Target. The anniversary dinner where she'd forgotten to make a reservation for me and I'd had to wait at the bar while Daniel dined with his parents. The countless times she'd referred to my work as Clara's little design hobby. 3 years of being tolerated instead of welcomed. Of being introduced as Daniel's wife with a slight pause before my name, as if she was hoping people would forget to ask for it. 3 years of watching her shower Daniel with money and gifts and opportunities while treating me like hired help who should be grateful for the minimum. The vacuum cleaner wasn't a gift. It was a statement. You are the help. This is your value. Know your place. I picked up my phone and called Patricia. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice bright and artificial. "Clara, did you get your gift?" "I did. Thank you so much. It's exactly what I needed." "I'm so glad. I know it's not glamorous, but I always think practical gifts are the most thoughtful. You mentioned your old vacuum wasn't working well, and I thought, what better gift for a woman who keeps house?" A woman who keeps house. Not a graphic designer with a client list that included 2 Fortune 500 companies. Not Daniel's wife and partner. A woman who keeps house. It's perfect, I said, injecting warmth into my voice I didn't feel. You're so thoughtful, Patricia. Well, I do try. I know things are tight for you with your freelance work, so I wanted to get you something useful rather than frivolous. Things weren't tight. I made $85,000 a year for my design work, more than enough for my needs. But Patricia had decided years ago that I was financially struggling, and nothing I said would change her mind. I really appreciate it, I said. It means a lot that you think of me. Of course, dear. Your family. The word family carried the same weight as help had earlier. Now, I have to run. Tennis lesson in 20 minutes. Take care. She hung up before I could respond. I set down the phone and walked to my home office, the spare bedroom where I ran my design business. On my desk was a letter that had arrived 4 days ago. I'd read it so many times the paper had softened from handling. The letterhead was from Morrison and Associates, attorneys at law, based in Chicago. Dear Mrs. Clara Hartwell, we are writing regarding the estate of Martin Chen, who passed away on March 15th. As you may know, Mr. Chen was your late father's business partner and longtime friend. Mr. Chen's will contain provisions for several individuals, including yourself. We need to schedule a meeting to discuss your inheritance and the associated documentation. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience. My father had died when I was 19, a car accident that had shattered my world. He'd been a software engineer who'd started a small tech company with his college roommate, Martin Chen. The company had been struggling when Dad died, barely breaking even. I'd met Martin a few times at Dad's funeral and occasionally after. He'd always been kind, asking about my college studies, my design work, my life. But we'd fallen out of touch over the years as I'd moved for college, then for Daniel's job, then settled into married life. I'd known Martin had died. I'd seen the obituary online, but I hadn't expected to be mentioned in his will. The meeting with the attorneys had happened 3 days ago. I'd driven to Chicago alone, not mentioning it to Daniel. He'd been busy with a case, and I'd told him I was meeting a potential client. The attorney, a woman named Rebecca Morrison, had been efficient and direct. Mr. Chen's estate is substantial, she'd said, sliding documents across her desk. His company went public in 2018. The shares he held were worth approximately $47 million at the time of his death. The number had been so large I'd initially misheard it. Mr. Chen had no children and never married. His will distributes his estate among various individuals and charities. Rebecca had pointed to a specific line in the document. He's left you 17% of his estate after taxes and fees. I'd stared at the number until it stopped looking like numbers and just became abstract shapes. $8,200,000. Why? I'd asked, why me? Rebecca had smiled slightly. His letter explains it. He left one for you. The letter had been in Martin's handwriting, shaky but clear. Dear Clara, your father was more than my business partner. He was my best friend, the brother I never had. When he died, I promised him I'd watch over you if I could. I know I didn't do that as actively as I should have. Life got busy. You grew up and moved away and built your own life. But I always kept track. I know about your design business, your marriage, your life. Your father would be proud of who you've become. You built something from nothing, just like he did. This money isn't a gift. It's what your father would have shared with you if our company had succeeded during his lifetime. Consider it his legacy delivered late. Use it wisely. Use it freely. Use it to build the life you want, not the life others expect from you. With love and respect, Martin. I'd cried in Rebecca Morrison's office, mourning my father all over again, grateful for Martin's kindness, overwhelmed by the impossible number in front of me. $8 million. The paperwork was being processed. The money would transfer within 60 to 90 days. For now, I was supposed to continue my normal life while the legal mechanisms turned. For now, I was still sensible Clara with her little design hobby. For now, Patricia still thought I was the poor girl who'd trapped her successful son. For now, I held the vacuum cleaner and smiled and said thank you. But in 60 days, everything would change. And I was already planning exactly how. I called Rebecca Morrison that afternoon. "Mrs. Hartwell," she answered. "Is everything all right?" "It's fine. I just had a question about the timing. You said 60 to 90 days for the transfer." "That's correct. The estate has some complex holdings that need to be liquidated and processed. We're aiming for mid to late August. And until then, this is completely confidential?" "Absolutely. Estate matters are private unless you choose to disclose them." "Thank you. That's what I needed to know." After hanging up, I made a list. A careful, methodical list of everything I wanted to accomplish in the next 3 months. It started with one word: wait. Then document everything. Then plan. I had spent 3 years being sensible Clara, taking every slight with grace, every insult with a smile. I'd absorbed Patricia's contempt like it was my job, made myself smaller so Daniel's family could feel bigger. 3 years of being the poor girl who didn't quite belong. In 60 days, I'd have $8 million. And Patricia Hartwell would finally understand exactly what she'd been doing to someone who could have been an ally, a friend, even a daughter. Instead, she'd made me an enemy. She just didn't know it yet. The vacuum cleaner sat on my counter for 3 days before I finally moved it to the hall closet. Every time I looked at it, I felt a mixture of anger and anticipation. Anger for the disrespect it represented. Anticipation for the moment Patricia would realize her mistake. Daniel noticed my mood was off. "You're quiet lately," he said one evening over dinner. "Everything okay?" "Just busy with work." "New project?" It wasn't entirely a lie. I was working, planning, calculating, preparing for the conversation that would happen in approximately 57 days. "Mom asked if you'd called to thank her for the vacuum." I called the day after. Thanked her very graciously. "Good. You know how she is about thank you calls." He returned to his pasta. The subject closed. I watched my husband eat. This man I'd loved and married, and wondered when he'd stopped defending me to his mother, or if he ever had. We'd met in college. He'd been pre-law, I'd been in art school. We'd bonded over late-night study sessions and cheap pizza and dreams of the future. He'd seemed different from the prep school boys I'd met. More grounded, more real. Then we'd graduated and he'd gone to law school, and slowly the grounded boy I'd fallen for had been replaced by someone who valued his mother's opinion more than his wife's dignity. Or maybe he'd always been that person, and I'd been too in love to see it. "I'm thinking about taking on fewer clients," I said, testing the waters. Daniel looked up. "Can we afford that?" "I think so. My income is pretty stable, and I'd like more time for some personal projects." "What kind of personal projects?" "Just some ideas I've been developing. Nothing concrete yet." He nodded, already losing interest. "Well, don't let it affect your income too much. My promotion came with a raise, but we still have expenses." The expenses he was referring to were mostly his. The car his mother had bought him cost a fortune to insure. The country club membership Patricia had insisted he maintain. The wardrobe he needed for client meetings. I paid for our groceries, utilities, my own car payment. He paid the mortgage on the house his parents had helped us buy, covering the down payment as a wedding gift that Patricia reminded me about at least once a month. "We're very generous to you both," she'd say. "I hope you appreciate what we've done to give you this start in life." I'd smile and nod and say thank you. 57 days. That became my mantra. 57 days until the money transferred. 57 days until I could make decisions based on what I wanted instead of what would keep the peace. 57 days until Patricia Hartwell discovered that the sensible, struggling girl she'd been condescending to for 3 years was wealthier than she'd ever be. I started documenting everything. Every interaction with Patricia. Every dismissive comment, every slight. I kept a journal, noting dates and specific quotes. June 8th. Patricia called my design work a little hobby in front of her bridge club friends. June 15th. Anniversary dinner. Patricia forgot to include me in the reservation again. Sat at the bar for 45 minutes. June 22nd. Patricia gave Daniel $5,000 to update his wardrobe for court appearances. Asked me if I'd lost weight, then said I should try to keep up appearances for Daniel's sake. Each entry was a small cut, individually dismissible, but collectively forming a pattern of systematic disrespect. I also started planning my response. Not revenge. I wasn't interested in cruelty, but consequences. Patricia needed to understand what she'd done, who she'd insulted, and what she'd lost through her own snobbery. The opportunity came faster than expected. In mid-July, Daniel came home excited. Mom's planning a family gathering for her birthday. Big party at the country club, like 50 people. She wants you to help with the planning. Help how? You know, decorations, invitations. She said your design skills would be useful. He paused. She's not paying you or anything. It's a family contribution. Of course, she wasn't paying me. Patricia never paid for things she thought were beneath her to do, but above her to pay someone else to do. When is it? August 20th. 3 weeks from Saturday. August 20th. Right in the middle of when my inheritance was scheduled to transfer. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. It was fate. I'd be happy to help, I said, smiling. Daniel looked relieved. Great. Mom will be thrilled. She's really excited about this party. Turning 65 is a big deal for her. I'm sure it is. That evening, Patricia called. Clara, dear, Daniel said you'd help with my birthday party. That's so sweet of you. Of course, Patricia. I'm happy to contribute. Wonderful. I'll need invitation designs, something elegant, sophisticated. And I'm thinking floral centerpieces, maybe gold accents. I want it to look expensive, you understand. I understand perfectly. I knew I could count on you. It's so nice when family helps each other, isn't it? It really is. I'll send you my guest list and color preferences. Oh, and Clara, I know you'll do your best, but if the designs aren't quite right, don't take it personally. I have very high standards. I wouldn't expect anything less. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and started designing invitations for Patricia Hartwell's 65th birthday party. They were going to be perfect, absolutely perfect, because this party was going to be memorable for everyone, especially Patricia. Patricia's email arrived the next morning with the subject line, "Birthday party details urgent." I opened it to find a 3-page document with specifications that would have made a wedding planner weep. Guest list, 75 people, see attached spreadsheet. Theme, elegant garden party. Color palette, champagne gold, blush pink, ivory. Invitations must be sophisticated, expensive looking, hand-delivered to local guests. Mailed to out-of-town guests no later than July 25th. Budget, whatever it takes to make it look impressive. This is MY Day. The guest list included partners from Daniel's law firm, Patricia's country club friends, various family members I'd met once or twice at obligatory gatherings. My name appeared at the bottom with a note. Clara, design only, not invited as guest. Will be helping with setup. I read that line 3 times. I wasn't invited to my mother-in-law's birthday party. I was hired help. I forwarded the email to Daniel with a simple message. Did you know about this? His response came an hour later. About what? I'm not invited to your mother's party. I'm staff. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, I'm sure that's a mistake. I'll talk to her. But he didn't talk to her. Or if he did, nothing changed. When I emailed Patricia a question about the invitation wording, her response included, "Thanks, dear. Make sure you're there by 1 p.m. on the 20th to help set up. The party starts at 3 p.m., so you'll have plenty of time. You can eat with the catering staff." I could eat with the catering staff. I sat at my desk, staring at that sentence, feeling the last bit of restraint I'd been holding on to dissolve. This wasn't carelessness. This wasn't oversight. This was deliberate. Patricia was putting me in my place as clearly and publicly as she could, and she had no idea, absolutely no idea, what was about to happen. I called Rebecca Morrison. "Mrs. Hartwell, how can I help you?" "The inheritance transfer. Can you expedite it?" "Possibly, depending on the urgency. The estate liquidation is nearly complete." "What's the situation?" "I need access to at least part of the funds by August 15th. Can that happen?" "Let me check with the probate court." I heard typing. "The bulk of the transfer won't complete until late August, but we could arrange a partial disbursement." "How much do you need?" $2 million. More typing. "That's feasible. May I ask what's prompting the urgency?" "Let's call it a family matter that requires immediate attention." Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Then, "I'll file the motion on Monday. You should have access by August 12th, possibly sooner." "Thank you." "Mrs. Hartwell, whatever you're planning, make sure it's legal." "It will be completely legal. Just financially devastating." I heard her smile through the phone. "I'll expedite the paperwork." The invitations I designed for Patricia's party were spectacular. Heavy cardstock with gold foil accents, elegant script, embossed details that caught the light. They looked like they'd cost $50 each to produce. They'd actually cost about $12 each through my wholesale printing contacts, but Patricia would never know the difference. I delivered them to her house on July 23rd. She examined them with the critical eye of someone looking for flaws. "These are actually quite lovely," she said, surprise evident in her voice. "I'm glad you like them. You know, Clara, you do have talent with these little design things. Have you ever considered doing this professionally instead of just as a hobby?" I smiled. "I have considered it." "Well, good for you. Maybe after Daniel makes partner, you could open a little Etsy shop or something." I'd been running a successful design business for 8 years. I had corporate clients in 3 states. But to Patricia, I was still playing with crayons. "Maybe," I said. "Now, about the day of the party. I'll need you here by noon, actually not 1. The florist delivers at 12:30, and I'll need help directing them. You understand staging better than I do." "Of course." "And wear something nice, but not too nice. You'll be working, after all." "I understand perfectly." August arrived with oppressive heat. Florida's summer pressing down like a weight, humidity turning the air thick and heavy. The notification from the bank came on August 11th. Wire transfer received. $2 million. I stared at my phone screen in my home office, looking at a number that didn't feel real. $2 million. More money than I'd earned in 20 years of design work. And I still had $6 million more coming in 3 weeks. I called Rebecca Morrison. It transferred, I said. I see that. The remainder will transfer between August 28th and September 5th, depending on the final estate settlements. Thank you for expediting this. You're welcome. Mrs. Hartwell, be smart with it. I will be. The first thing I did was pay off my car, the 10-year-old Honda that Patricia had mocked countless times. When are you going to get a real car, dear? Was now mine free and clear. The second thing I did was call a lawyer. Not Daniel's firm, a different one, a woman named Jennifer Park, who specialized in family law and asset protection. We met in her downtown office on August 13th. I need to understand my options, I told her, for protecting assets in the event of a divorce. Jennifer was in her 40s, sharp-eyed and direct. You're considering leaving your husband? I'm considering my options. How long have you been married? 3 years. Any children? No. Any jointly held assets besides the house? Just the house. His parents helped with the down payment. Everything else we've kept separate. Jennifer made notes. And you have significant assets you want to protect. Yes, recent inheritance. $8 million, minus the advance I've already received. Her pen paused. That's substantial. In Florida, inheritance is considered separate property as long as it's not commingled with marital assets. Keep it in accounts solely in your name. Don't use it for joint expenses. Don't deposit it in joint accounts. Don't use it for the mortgage. What if I want to leave? Then you'd be entitled to half of any marital assets accumulated during the marriage. The house value has probably increased. You'd be entitled to half of that increase, but your inheritance stays yours. And if his family tries to claim I owe them for the down payment, unless you sign something agreeing to repay it, a gift is a gift. They'd have no legal claim. She leaned forward. Mrs. Hartwell, what exactly is happening here? I told her, all of it. 3 years of Patricia's condescension. The vacuum cleaner, the birthday party invitation that listed me as staff, Daniel's enabling of his mother's behavior. Jennifer listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, You're planning something. I'm planning to protect myself, and possibly to make a statement, as long as the statement doesn't involve anything illegal. It won't. Then here's my advice. Document everything. Every interaction, every insult, every text and email. If you decide to leave, we want a clear record of the emotional environment you were living in. I was already doing that. And the money? Keep it separate. The moment you use inheritance funds for anything he benefits from, you risk it being considered a marital asset. Separate accounts, separate investments, separate everything. I left her office with a clear plan and a retainer agreement that made me officially her client. August 20th arrived with cloudless skies and temperatures in the mid-90s. Perfect weather for a garden party, assuming the country club's outdoor space had adequate shade and cooling. I arrived at Patricia's house at 11:30, wearing a simple sundress and flats. Nothing too nice, as instructed. Patricia answered the door in a silk robe, her hair in curlers. Clara, you're early. Good. The florist just called. They're running late. Can you start setting up the gift table in the living room? I've already arranged for everything to be brought to the club by 2. Of course. I spent the next 2 hours following Patricia's increasingly frantic directions. Move this here, no there, no back to where it was. The napkins are wrong, call the caterer. The balloons are too bright. We need champagne gold, not regular gold. Daniel arrived at 1:30, fresh from a half day at the office. How's it going? He asked, kissing his mother's cheek. Your wife has been very helpful, Patricia said, though we did have that mishap with the napkins. The mishap had been Patricia changing her mind 3 times about napkin placement. Great. Daniel didn't look at me. I'll go get ready. At 2 o'clock, we loaded everything into Patricia's Mercedes for transport to the country club. I rode with the flowers while Patricia and Daniel took the gifts and decorations in her car. The country club's event space was impressive. A large covered terrace overlooking the golf course, with ceiling fans and misters creating a comfortable environment despite the heat. I directed the florist, arranged the gift table, set up the place cards Patricia had insisted on, and generally made sure everything met her exacting standards. At 2:45, I was adjusting a centerpiece when Patricia appeared, fully transformed in an elegant champagne-colored dress, jewelry glittering. "It looks beautiful," she admitted, scanning the space. "You did well. Thank you. Now the caterers have a table set up in the back where you can eat. They should have plenty of food. You're welcome to take some home if you'd like." She walked away before I could respond. Guests began arriving at 3. I watched from my designated spot near the catering station as Patricia greeted everyone with air kisses and exaggerated delight. Daniel worked the crowd like the lawyer he was, shaking hands and making connections. He looked happy, comfortable in this world of money and status. I ate a small plate of food with the catering staff, 2 college students who were friendly and didn't seem to think it was weird that a family member was eating with them instead of attending the party. Around 4 o'clock, Patricia called for everyone's attention. She stood at the center of the terrace, microphone in hand, beaming at her assembled guests. "Thank you all so much for being here to celebrate with me." Her voice carried across the space. 65 is such a milestone, and I'm so grateful to be surrounded by the people I love most. She went on for several minutes about gratitude and family and the importance of surrounding yourself with people who understand your values. "I especially want to thank my son Daniel," she continued, "who has made me so proud. His success at the firm, his wonderful life, his bright future. I couldn't ask for a better son." Daniel smiled, raised his glass in acknowledgement. Patricia didn't mention me. Then came the gifts. Patricia opened them one by one, exclaiming over jewelry from her sister, a spa package from her bridge club friends, various expensive items from her social circle. Daniel's gift was last, a pair of diamond earrings that probably cost $10,000, purchased with the bonus he'd received last month. "They're perfect." Patricia hugged him. "You have such excellent taste." She didn't ask if I'd contributed to the gift. She didn't acknowledge my presence at all. The party wound down around 6. Guests began leaving, thanking Patricia for a lovely afternoon. She stood by the door accepting compliments and goodbye hugs. I helped the caterers pack up, then started breaking down the decorations. "Clara." Patricia appeared beside me. "This was lovely. Really. You did a good job. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Maybe next time I'll actually pay you." She laughed like it was a joke. "Maybe next time I'll send you an invoice." She laughed again, missing the edge in my voice entirely. "You're funny. I like that you're not too proud to help out. Some people would be insulted to be asked to work at a family party, but you understand that family pitches in. I understand a lot of things now that I didn't before." "Good. That's growth." She patted my arm. "You're learning your place in this family. That's important." My place. She'd finally said it explicitly. "I should get going," I said. "Long day." "Of course. Thank you again, dear." I drove home in silence, my hand steady on the wheel, my mind crystal clear. Patricia had given me exactly what I needed, a final, unmistakable demonstration of how she viewed me. Now it was my turn to demonstrate how I viewed her. And I had $6 million left to make my point. The wire transfer for the remaining funds came through on August 29th. I was sitting at my desk working on a logo design for a tech startup when my phone chimed with the notification. Wire transfer received $6,187,450. The number was slightly less than expected due to some final estate fees, but it was still more money than I'd ever imagined having. Combined with the earlier disbursement, minus what I'd already spent on legal fees and paying off my car, I had approximately $7.9 million sitting in accounts that only I could access. I closed my laptop and called Jennifer Park. "The money transferred," I said. "Congratulations. How are you feeling?" "Focused. Have you made any decisions about your marriage?" I looked around my home office, the space I'd built my business in, the room where I'd worked long hours while Daniel attended networking events and dinners with his colleagues and mother, the room where I'd made myself small and invisible so he could shine. "I'm going to need those divorce papers we discussed." "Are you sure?" "I've been sure for a while. I was just waiting for the financial security to make it possible. I'll have them drawn up." "What's your timeline?" "I want to tell Daniel this weekend. File next week." "Okay, let's meet tomorrow to finalize everything. I want to make sure you're protected." That evening, Daniel came home late from drinks with colleagues. He was in a good mood, loosening his tie as he walked into the kitchen where I was making dinner. "Big news," he said. "Martin Reynolds is retiring. They're going to announce the new partner next month, and I'm one of 3 candidates." "That's great." "Mom's thrilled. She's already planning a celebration party for when I make it." He grabbed a beer from the fridge. "She mentioned using your design skills again for the invitations, if you don't mind." "Actually, I need to talk to you about something." "Sure, what's up?" I turned off the stove and faced him. I've been offered a design contract. It's a major client, 6-month project, but it would require me to work from a dedicated office space downtown. I'm thinking about taking it. It wasn't entirely a lie. I had been offered a contract, though I'd already decided to turn it down. But I needed to see how he'd react. Daniel frowned. "Downtown? That seems inconvenient. Don't you like working from home?" "I do, but this is a significant opportunity. It would mean more income, better portfolio pieces." "How much more income?" "Potentially double what I'm making now." He considered this. "I guess if it's that substantial, but wouldn't it be expensive to rent office space? Wouldn't that eat up most of the additional income?" "Some of it, but I think it's worth it for my career growth." "Your career?" He said it like the words didn't quite fit together. "Look, Clara, I'm about to make partner. Once that happens, you won't need to work so hard. You could scale back, maybe just take the clients you really enjoy. Focus on the house, maybe start thinking about kids." "I like working." "I know, but there's working and then there's working, you know. Mom never worked after she married Dad. She focused on making a home, raising me, supporting his career. It worked out well for them." "Your mother had a trust fund. She didn't need to work." "True, but even if she hadn't, I think she would have made the same choice. There's something to be said for traditional roles. They exist for a reason." I stared at my husband, this man I'd married 3 years ago, who I'd thought shared my values, my vision for an equal partnership. "You think I should stop working to support your career?" "Not stop completely, just prioritize differently." He took a drink of his beer. "Look, I'm not saying this right. I just mean once I make partner, we'll be in a different financial situation. You won't have the pressure to earn. You can be more selective." "What if I don't want to be more selective?" "Then don't. I'm just saying it's an option." He kissed my forehead. "Think about the office space thing. Make sure it makes financial sense before you commit. We don't want unnecessary overhead. He walked away to change clothes, the conversation over in his mind. I stood in the kitchen, the final piece of clarity clicking into place. Daniel didn't see me as a partner. He saw me as a support system for his ambitions, someone whose work was negotiable, whose career was a hobby that should bend around his needs, just like his mother saw me. The meeting with Jennifer Park the next day was thorough and methodical. We went through every asset, every account, every detail of my financial situation. The house is the biggest complication, Jennifer said. His parents provided the down payment, $75,000. The house is now worth $425,000. You've been married 3 years and paying the mortgage jointly. What am I entitled to? Half of the equity gained during the marriage, minus the down payment. So the house was worth $350,000 when you bought it. Now it's worth $425,000. That's $75,000 in appreciation. You'd be entitled to half of that, $37,500. That's it. The down payment stays with the house, since it was a gift from his family. You could argue for more based on your contributions to the marriage, but it would be difficult given the short duration. What if I don't want anything from the house? Jennifer looked up sharply. You'd walk away from $37,500. I'd walk away from $37,500 to be done with this family cleanly. No ongoing financial ties, no arguments about who owes what. That's your choice, but I'd advise taking what you're entitled to. I don't need it. I gestured at the account statements spread across her desk. I have $8 million. I don't want anything from them except my freedom. Then we'll structure it that way. You relinquish all claims to the marital home. In exchange, you keep all separate property, including your inheritance. Clean break, no ongoing obligations. Perfect. When are you telling him? This weekend. I want to have the papers ready to file Monday morning. They'll be ready. Jennifer hesitated. Mrs. Hartwell, Clara, have you thought about what comes after? Where you'll live, how you'll handle the social fallout. I'm going to buy a condo, downtown, near the design district. I'm going to expand my business, maybe hire some junior designers. I'm going to build the life I want instead of the life his family expects. And his mother... I smiled. His mother is going to learn a very expensive lesson about judging people by their bank accounts. Saturday morning arrived with thunderstorms, Florida's way of breaking the summer heat. Daniel was playing golf anyway, the country club course equipped with covered carts and stubborn optimism about weather patterns. I used his absence to pack. Not everything, just essentials. Clothes, laptop, important documents. I'd been slowly moving things to a storage unit over the past week. My design equipment, books, personal items. The house had never quite felt like mine anyway. Decorated mostly by Patricia's suggestions and filled with furniture from Daniel's family. The only things I took that might be noticed were photos. Pictures of my parents, my college friends, my life before Daniel. Everything else could stay. I'd signed a lease on a condo 3 days ago. 2 bedrooms, downtown location, view of the city. I'd paid 6 months in advance in cash without needing to provide references or jump through hoops. That's what having $8 million meant. Doors opened without you having to push. Daniel came home around 2, soaked despite the covered cart. Miserable out there, he said, dripping on the tile. We quit after 9 holes. I need to talk to you. Can I shower first? I'm disgusting. This can't wait. Something in my tone made him stop. He looked at me, really looked, and I saw the moment he realized something was wrong. What's going on? I'm leaving. I've filed for divorce. The words landed like stones in still water, creating ripples of shock across his face. What? Clara, what are you talking about? I'm leaving you. I've hired an attorney. The papers will be filed Monday morning. This is insane. You can't just... We haven't even talked about this. If something's wrong, we can work on it. Counseling, whatever you need. I don't need counseling. I need out of this marriage. Why? He looked genuinely confused. What did I do? If this is about the office space thing, I wasn't saying you couldn't. It's not about one thing. It's about 3 years of things. It's about your mother treating me like hired help and you letting her. It's about birthday gifts that cost 1,000th of what she spends on you. It's about not being invited to her party except as staff. It's about you asking me to scale back my career to support yours while treating my work like a hobby. My mother isn't perfect, but she's not that bad. You're being too sensitive. Don't. I held up a hand. Don't tell me I'm too sensitive. Don't minimize 3 years of systematic disrespect. I'm done, Daniel. I'm done being small so you and your mother can feel big. This is about the vacuum cleaner. He said it like he'd figured out a puzzle. You're ending our marriage over a birthday gift? I'm ending our marriage because the vacuum cleaner perfectly symbolized how your family sees me. As the help. As someone who should be grateful for the minimum. That's not true. Your mother told me I was learning my place in the family. She said that to my face. At her party, after I spent 2 weeks designing invitations and decorations for free. Daniel ran his hands through his wet hair. Okay, maybe Mom has been thoughtless. I'll talk to her. We'll set boundaries. But Clara, we can fix this. We're married. You don't just throw that away. I'm not throwing it away. I'm recognizing that it was never what I thought it was. You married me thinking I'd become like your mother, someone who'd fade into the background while you succeeded. But I'm not her. I never will be. Where are you going to go? I have a place. My things are already mostly moved. I don't understand how you afford it. He stopped, realization dawning. Did you take money from our joint account? No, I haven't touched our joint account. Check if you want. Then how? This was the moment. The moment I'd been both dreading and anticipating. Remember Martin Chen? My father's business partner. Vaguely. He died in March. He left me money. Quite a lot of money. How much? $8 million. The number hung in the air between us. I watched Daniel's face cycle through disbelief, shock, confusion, and finally something that looked like anger. $8 million? You've had $8 million, and you didn't tell me. The transfer just completed. I found out about the inheritance in June. June? That was 3 months ago. 3 months, and you said nothing. I was processing it, and watching, seeing how things played out. Watching what? Watching whether you'd defend me to your mother, whether you'd treat me like a partner or an accessory, whether my value to you was conditional on my financial status. Understanding crashed over him. The birthday party. You had millions of dollars and let her treat you like staff. I wanted to see if you'd stop her, if you'd say something, anything, to defend me. You didn't. I didn't know you had money. If I'd known. That's exactly the point, Daniel. Your treatment of me shouldn't depend on my bank account, but it does. It always has. You and your mother have spent 3 years treating me like the poor girl who trapped the successful lawyer. Now, you know I was never poor. I was just quiet. He sank onto the couch, still dripping rainwater, processing information that was reordering his entire understanding of our marriage. Does my mother know? Not yet, but she will. Clara, please, let's think about this rationally. You're hurt, I understand that, but we can work through this, especially now that he stopped himself, but not fast enough. Especially now that I have money. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. 3 hours ago, you were suggesting I scale back my career. Now that you know I have $8 million, suddenly we can work through anything. That's not fair. You're right. It's not fair. Nothing about the last 3 years has been fair. I picked up my purse and the last box of my belongings. My attorney will be in touch. I'm not asking for anything except a clean divorce. You can keep the house, keep everything in it. I just want out. Wait. He stood up. My mother. You're going to tell her, aren't you? About the money. Eventually. Clara, please don't. This will humiliate her. She made some mistakes, but publicly humiliating her. I'm not planning to humiliate her publicly. I'm planning to have a private conversation where she learns that the woman she treated like hired help for 3 years had more money than she'll ever see. I headed toward the door. What she does with that information is up to her. She'll be devastated. She should have thought about that before she gave me a vacuum cleaner while giving you a Mercedes. I walked out, got in my newly paid-off Honda, and drove to my new condo where I could finally breathe without the weight of their expectations crushing me. My phone started ringing around 6 p.m. Daniel, calling repeatedly. I didn't answer. Then Patricia called. Daniel had clearly told her something. I let that go to voicemail too. Clara, it's Patricia. Daniel told me you're upset about some things. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Call me back so we can discuss this like adults. Like adults. As if I was the child throwing a tantrum instead of a grown woman walking away from a toxic situation. I deleted the voicemail and turned off my phone. Tomorrow I'd deal with the fallout. Tonight I sat in my new condo looking out at the city lights, feeling the freedom of space that was entirely mine. No Patricia telling me how to decorate. No Daniel suggesting I scale back my ambitions. No vacuum cleaners disguised as gifts. Just me, my $8 million, and the future I was going to build. On my own terms. Finally, the divorce papers were filed Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, my phone, which I'd finally turned back on, was flooded with messages. Daniel, we need to talk. Please don't do this. Patricia, this is ridiculous. You're throwing away a good marriage over nothing. Daniel's father, Richard, who'd barely spoken to me in 3 years. Let's all calm down and think about this rationally. Even Daniel's sister, Michelle, who lived in California, and I'd met exactly twice. I don't know what's happening, but can you please just talk to Daniel? The only message I responded to was from Jennifer Park, papers filed. He has 20 days to respond. His attorney will likely contact me this week. I spent Monday afternoon doing something I'd wanted to do for months, shopping for my new condo. Not furniture from Patricia's preferred vendors or decorations that matched her aesthetic. My style, my choices. I bought art from local galleries, bold, colorful pieces that made me happy. I ordered a custom desk for my home office. I found a vintage rug in a consignment shop that was completely impractical and absolutely perfect. Every purchase was freedom. Every choice was mine. Tuesday brought the first serious response. Daniel's attorney, a partner at his firm named Robert Kellington, called Jennifer. She conferenced me in. My client is willing to negotiate, Robert said, his voice carrying that careful neutrality lawyers used. He wants to save the marriage if possible, but if Mrs. Hartwell is determined to proceed, he asks that we handle this amicably. My client is determined to proceed, Jennifer replied, and we've proposed a very simple split. She keeps her separate property. He keeps the marital home and his separate property. No alimony, no complex asset division. Clean and fast. That seems unusually generous on Mrs. Hartwell's part. My client isn't interested in drawing this out. She wants a clean break. I see. Papers rustled on Robert's end. An inheritance? My client mentioned a substantial inheritance. Separate property, not subject to division. The timing is interesting. The inheritance was received during the marriage. The inheritance was left to Mrs. Hartwell individually, held in accounts solely in her name, never commingled with marital assets. Florida law is clear on this. We'll need to review the documentation. Of course, I'll send everything over. After the call ended, Jennifer said he's fishing, trying to see if there's an angle to claim part of the inheritance. Can they? Not based on what you've told me. You've kept it completely separate, right? No using it for joint expenses. No depositing it in joint accounts. Nothing. It's all in accounts with just my name. Then they have no claim. He's just doing his due diligence for his client. Wednesday, Patricia showed up at my new condo. I had just finished a video call with a client when the building's front desk called up. Ms. Chin, there's a Patricia Hartwell here to see you. Should I send her up? I almost said no. Then I realized this conversation was inevitable. Might as well have it on my territory and my space, surrounded by evidence that I was fine, better than fine without them. Send her up. I watched through the peephole as Patricia emerged from the elevator. She was dressed immaculately as always. Designer dress, expensive handbag, jewelry that probably cost more than most people's cars. She looked around the hallway with barely concealed disdain, noting the modern but not luxury building, the practical but not prestigious address. I opened the door before she could knock. Patricia! Clara! She walked in without being invited, her eyes immediately scanning my space. I watched her take in the new furniture, the art on the walls, the floor-to-ceiling windows with their city view. This is nice. Thank you. A bit small, but I suppose it suits you. The condo was 1,400 square feet, not large, but hardly small. Just another jab, casual and practiced. Would you like coffee? No, thank you. I'm not staying long. I just came to talk some sense into you. She settled onto my new couch without being asked. Daniel is devastated. You've humiliated him at work, filing divorce papers out of nowhere. His colleagues are talking. I'm sorry he's embarrassed. Are you? Because this seems calculated to cause maximum damage. Walking out with no warning, filing papers immediately. I gave 3 years of warning. You just weren't paying attention. Patricia's expression tightened. I don't know what Daniel told you about the birthday party, but if you were offended by something, the appropriate response was to discuss it with me, not blow up your marriage. I wasn't invited to your birthday party except as staff. You told me to eat with the caterers. That's not. You're exaggerating. I asked you to help with setup because you have design skills. I thought you'd appreciate being useful. Useful, like a vacuum cleaner. Her face flushed. That again. Clara, I gave you a practical gift because I thought you'd appreciate practical things. I'm sorry if you wanted something more extravagant, but I didn't realize you were so materialistic. The rewriting of history was breathtaking. She'd given me a vacuum cleaner as a deliberate insult, and now I was the materialistic one for being offended. You gave Daniel a Mercedes worth $73,000. You gave me a vacuum that cost $79. The ratio speaks for itself. Daniel is my son. Of course, I'm more generous with my own child than with his wife. That's normal. Normal would be at least pretending I'm part of the family. Normal would be inviting me to events instead of hiring me as unpaid labor. Normal would be basic respect. Patricia stood up, her patience clearly exhausted. "I came here to appeal to your better nature, but I see you're determined to play the victim. Fine, but let me be very clear. If you go through with this divorce, you're making a terrible mistake. Daniel is going to make partner. His earning potential is enormous. You're throwing away financial security for the rest of your life." This was the moment. The moment I'd been simultaneously dreading and anticipating for weeks. "Patricia, I need to tell you something." "What?" "Do you remember my father?" She looked confused by the subject change. "Your father? He died, didn't he? Some sort of accident." "Car accident. When I was 19. He and his business partner had started a tech company. It was struggling when he died." "That's very sad, but I don't see." His business partner's name was Martin Chin. The company eventually went public. It was worth $47 million when Martin died earlier this year. Patricia was still confused, not making the connection. "Martin left me 17% of his estate. After taxes and fees, I inherited $8 million. The color drained from Patricia's face, so completely she looked like she might faint. She sat back down hard, her expensive handbag dropping to the floor. $8 million? Yes. You have $8 million? I do. Since when? I found out in June. The full transfer completed 2 weeks ago. I watched her process this information, her mind clearly racing through implications. June. That meant I'd had $8 million or known about it when she gave me the vacuum cleaner, when she excluded me from her birthday party, when she told me I was learning my place. Why didn't you tell us? Her voice was faint. Because I wanted to see how you'd treat me without knowing. And you showed me exactly who you are. A person who judges others entirely by their bank accounts and treats people accordingly. That's not, I didn't. She was struggling to form sentences. If I'd known. That's the point, Patricia. Your treatment of me shouldn't have depended on whether I had money. But it did. Every interaction, every gift, every insult was calibrated based on your belief that I was poor and beneath you. I never said you were beneath me. You told me I was learning my place in the family. You gave me a vacuum cleaner while giving Daniel a car worth 1,000 times more. You made me work your birthday party, then told me to eat with the catering staff. You've spent 3 years making it crystal clear that you consider me lesser. Patricia's hands were shaking. Clara, if I was thoughtless, I apologize. But you have to understand. No, I don't have to understand. I have to move forward with my life, away from you and your son. I walked to the door, opening it. The divorce will be final in a few months. Please don't contact me again. Wait. She stood up, her composure cracking. Clara, please. Let's talk about this rationally. You're upset, I understand. But think about what you're throwing away. Daniel loves you. We're family. You've never treated me like family. I will. I'll do better. She stopped, clearly hating what she was about to say. I'll treat you with more respect. I'll make more effort. Just please don't do this to Daniel. It's too late. It's not. You're angry, but we can fix this. I'll talk to Daniel. We'll set new boundaries. We'll start over. Her voice was rising, desperation bleeding through. Please, he's my son. He needs you. He needs my $8 million. There's a difference. That's not fair. Neither was 3 years of condescension. We're done, Patricia. Leave, please. She picked up her handbag with trembling hands, her face a mixture of shock and something that might have been genuine distress. At the door, she turned back. $8 million. And you let me, at the party you knew, and you let me. Yes. Why? Because I needed to know for certain. I needed to see if you or Daniel would ever defend me, value me, treat me with basic dignity. You didn't, so now I'm leaving." She walked out without another word, her footsteps unsteady as she headed toward the elevator. I closed the door and leaned against it, feeling the weight of 3 years finally lifting. My phone rang within the hour. "Daniel," I answered. "You told my mother about the money?" His voice was tight with anger. "She came here. The conversation was inevitable. She's in tears. She's been crying for an hour. Do you have any idea what you've done to her? Do you have any idea what she's done to me for 3 years? She's trying, Clara. She came to apologize, and you humiliated her." I told her the truth. If that's humiliating, maybe she should examine her behavior. This is revenge. Pure revenge. You're using your inheritance as a weapon. I'm using my inheritance as freedom. There's a difference. My mother is devastated. My father is furious. You've destroyed my family. Your family destroyed themselves by treating me like someone whose only value was in being convenient and grateful. I'm sorry they're upset, but that's not my responsibility anymore. You're not the person I thought you were. Neither are you. I hung up. The next few days brought an avalanche of attempts to reach me. Texts, calls, emails, even a letter delivered to my condo from Richard Hartwell offering to mediate this situation before it causes permanent damage. I ignored all of it. Jennifer kept me updated on the legal proceedings. Daniel's attorney was trying to slow things down, looking for any angle to claim the inheritance, or at least make the divorce more complicated. "He's dragging his feet," Jennifer said during a Friday call. "Requesting documentation, filing motions for extension. Classic delay tactics. Can he stop the divorce?" "No, but he can make it take longer and cost more." "Why? I don't know." "You're not asking for anything except out. He's hoping I'll get tired and accept some kind of settlement that benefits them." "Probably. Are you?" "Not a chance." That weekend, I did something I'd been planning since the inheritance transferred. I donated $500,000 to a women's business initiative fund. Money for women entrepreneurs starting their own companies, needing seed funding to build something independent. The fund director called me personally. "Ms. Chin, this is incredibly generous. This will change lives." "Good. That's the point. Would you be interested in joining our board? We could use someone with your business background and obvious commitment to our mission." "I'd like that very much." I hung up feeling something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Useful in a way that mattered, valued for something beyond convenience. Monday brought an unexpected visitor to my condo. Michelle Hartwell, Daniel's sister, who I'd met twice in 3 years. The front desk called up, "Michelle Hartwell to see you?" I was surprised enough to say yes. Michelle was 2 years older than Daniel, living in San Francisco with her tech entrepreneur husband. She'd always been cordial but distant, fitting me into the brother's wife category without much additional thought. She looked different from the carefully polished woman I'd met at family gatherings. Her hair was in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans and a Stanford sweatshirt, and she looked tired. "Clara, thanks for seeing me. I'm surprised you're in town." "I flew in this morning. I needed to see you in person." She glanced around my condo. "This is really nice." "Thank you. Can we talk?" I gestured to the couch. We sat, and Michelle took a deep breath. "I need to apologize to you." That wasn't what I'd expected. "For what?" "For not seeing what was happening. For not stepping in. For being too absorbed in my own life to notice that my mother was treating you terribly." She looked genuinely distressed. "Daniel called me yesterday. Told me everything. The divorce, the inheritance, what you said to Mom. and I realized I'd been complicit by being silent. You weren't around much. That's not an excuse. I saw enough. The Christmas when Mom gave Daniel a Rolex and gave you a gift card. I thought it was weird, but didn't say anything. The way she'd dismiss your work, call it a hobby. I noticed. I just didn't care enough to speak up. Why are you speaking up now? Because I spent all last night thinking about my own marriage. About what I'd do if my in-laws treated me the way Mom treated you. And I realized I'd leave too. I'd absolutely leave. She leaned forward. Clara, you're not wrong. Mom was awful to you. Daniel enabled it. And I stood by and let it happen. Okay. I'm not here to ask you to stay. I understand why you're leaving. I'm just here to say you're making the right choice. And I'm sorry we didn't give you reasons to make a different one. We sat in silence for a moment. How's Patricia handling it? I asked. Not well. She's been crying for days. Keeps saying she didn't know, that if she'd known about the money, she would have treated you better. She doesn't seem to understand that's the entire problem. And Daniel? Angry, embarrassed. His colleagues know about the divorce, and apparently there's some gossip about the circumstances. He's mortified that you had $8 million while he was, how did he put it, allowing you to work your little design business. Despite everything, I almost laughed. He said allowing? He did. I pointed out how condescending that was. We're not speaking now. Michelle sighed. This has been good for our family in a weird way. It's forcing us to look at patterns we've ignored for years. Mom's snobbery, Dad's enablement, Daniel's willingness to go along with anything that benefits him. What about you? I'm realizing I escaped by geography, moved 3,000 miles away, and told myself I was different because I'm married for love instead of money. But I stood by and watched Mom's behavior without calling it out. That makes me complicit. She stood up to leave. For what it's worth, she said at the door, I think you're incredibly brave. Most people would have stayed for the money, the stability, the path of least resistance. You chose yourself instead. After she left, I sat thinking about her words. Brave. I didn't feel brave. I felt tired and sad and relieved in equal measure. But maybe that's what bravery was, doing the hard thing even when you didn't feel strong enough for it. You look different, my aunt said. Happier. I am. The divorce was the right choice. Completely. New Year's came with a surprise. A woman named Brenda Chen, Martin's cousin, who'd been the executor of his estate, reached out via email. Dear Clara, I've been meaning to contact you since the estate was settled. I wanted to tell you more about Martin's intentions. He followed your career from a distance. He was proud of what you built, the business, the independence, the creative work. He told me several times that you reminded him of your father, building something meaningful through talent and determination. He also told me that he worried about you, said he'd met your husband's family once at a holiday gathering and came away concerned that they didn't value you properly. He hoped the inheritance would give you options. I think he'd be pleased with what you've done, not just leaving an unhealthy situation, but building something new and using the money to help others. That's exactly what he would have wanted. If you're ever in Chicago, I'd love to meet for coffee and share more stories about your father and Martin's friendship. I think you'd enjoy hearing them. Warm regards, Brenda. I replied immediately, accepting the coffee invitation and thanking her for reaching out. It was strange to think that Martin had seen what I hadn't been able to see clearly until the end, that the Hartwell family didn't value me, that I needed options, that the inheritance wasn't just money, but freedom. He'd given me a gift far more valuable than dollars. He'd given me the power to choose. Late January brought an unexpected encounter. I was at a coffee shop in downtown Tampa working on designs for a new client when someone approached my table. Patricia Hartwell. She looked different, older somehow, less polished. Her makeup wasn't quite perfect, her clothes still expensive, but not quite right. Clara. She said my name like a question. Patricia. May I sit? Just for a moment. I gestured to the empty chair. She sat, clutching her handbag like a shield. I don't want to bother you. I saw you through the window, and I thought I should say something. Apologize properly without expectations. Okay. I was awful to you. For 3 years, I was systematically, deliberately awful. And I did it because I'm a snob, because I'm insecure, because I was raised to believe that people's worth is measured by their bank accounts and social standing. She looked down at her hands. I'm not offering excuses. I'm just trying to explain. I appreciate that. Daniel is engaged. Did Michelle tell you? She mentioned he was dating someone. They're getting married in June. Rebecca something. I can't remember her last name even though I've met her 6 times. She's perfect on paper. Right family, right background, right everything. And she's completely vapid. No substance, no personality beyond being agreeable. Patricia looked up, her eyes wet. You had substance. You had talent, intelligence, independence. And I treated you like garbage because you didn't come with the right pedigree. I didn't know what to say. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Patricia continued. I know I don't deserve it. I'm just saying I was wrong, profoundly wrong, and I'm sorry. I threw away a daughter-in-law who was kind and talented and patient with my terrible behavior. I pushed my son toward someone who'll never challenge him or make him better. And I lost any chance of a real relationship with you. Patricia, I'm done. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. What I did, what I lost, what I destroyed with my snobbery. I hope you're happy, Clara. I genuinely hope that. She stood up and walked out before I could respond. I sat staring at my laptop, processing the apology I'd never expected to receive. It didn't change anything. I wasn't going back, wasn't reconnecting with that family, wasn't opening doors I'd deliberately closed. But it did feel like an ending. A real one. Not just walking away, but having the person who'd hurt me acknowledge the hurt. That evening, I called Rebecca Morrison, the attorney who'd handled Martin's estate. I want to set up a foundation, I said. Something permanent, dedicated to funding women-owned small businesses and creative ventures. That's wonderful. How much are you thinking? $2 million to start, with plans to add more as my investments grow. That's substantial. Have you thought about structure, board composition, application criteria? I want it focused on women who are building something real but might not have the traditional credentials or connections. Women who'd be dismissed by people like Patricia Hartwell but who have genuine talent and drive. So merit-based, not background-based. Exactly. We spent an hour discussing details. The foundation structure, tax implications, how to evaluate applications, what kind of support to offer beyond just money. When we finished, Rebecca said, "This is a beautiful way to honor your inheritance. Martin would be proud. I think my father would be proud too. I'm sure he would." The foundation launched in March, quietly at first. I didn't announce it publicly or attach my name prominently. It was just there, offering support to women building businesses in design, art, tech, services, any field where talent mattered more than connections. The applications started coming in. Each one was a story, a woman with an idea, a dream, a plan, but lacking the capital or credibility to get traditional funding. I read every application personally, selected 20 recipients for the first round of funding, watched them use the money to build websites, rent studio space, buy equipment, hire help, launch the ventures they'd been dreaming about. It felt like the best possible use of money I'd never expected to have. By summer, my design business had grown substantially. The 2 junior designers I'd hired were talented and hungry, taking on projects that let me focus on the creative direction I loved. I'd moved into a larger condo in the same building, 3 bedrooms, which felt almost excessive until I converted one into a proper design studio and one into a guest room for visiting family and friends. I dated casually, nothing serious. Learned to enjoy my own company without feeling like I was waiting for someone to complete me. I was complete on my own. That was the real gift Martin had given me. Not just money, but the understanding that I didn't need someone else's approval or support to be whole. One evening in July, I got a text from Michelle. Daniel's wedding is tomorrow. Rebecca, the vapid one mom mentioned. Just thought you should know. Hope you're well. I responded, thank you for telling me. I hope he's happy. And I meant it. Not because I wanted him back or wish things had been different, but because I'd moved so far past that relationship that his happiness or unhappiness didn't affect mine anymore. The next day, while Daniel was presumably getting married at some expensive venue with Patricia beaming in the front row, I was at a gallery opening for one of my foundation grant recipients. Sophia was a painter, talented, bold, working in abstract expressionism that made me feel things I couldn't quite name. She'd used her grant money to rent studio space and create enough pieces for her first solo show. The gallery was packed. People moved through the space with glasses of wine, studying her work, asking questions, writing down prices. 3 pieces sold that night. Sophia found me near the end of the evening, tears in her eyes. I can't believe this is happening. 6 months ago, I was painting in my garage, thinking I'd never be able to afford to do this seriously. Now I have a gallery show and actual sales. You earned this. The grant just gave you the opportunity. You did the work. But without the opportunity, she trailed off. Thank you, not just for the money, but for believing in me when I barely believed in myself. That was worth more than any society wedding, any partner track promotion, any country club membership. This, watching someone build something real, something meaningful, something entirely their own, was what the money was for, what the freedom was for, what the choice to walk away had made possible. I drove home that night thinking about the vacuum cleaner that had started everything. Patricia had meant it as an insult, a statement about my worth, my place, my value to the family. Instead, it had become the symbol of my liberation. The moment I decided to stop accepting someone else's valuation of me and start building a life based on my own worth. $8 million had given me options, but walking away from people who didn't value me had given me peace. And peace, I'd learned, was priceless. I parked in my building's garage, took the elevator to my condo, unlocked the door to my space, my home, earned and chosen and entirely mine. The vacuum cleaner sat in my hall closet, exactly where I'd put it months ago. I kept it deliberately, not as a reminder of the insult, but as a reminder of the moment I decided to choose myself. Tomorrow, I donate it to Goodwill. Let someone else use it who actually needed a vacuum cleaner rather than a symbol. But tonight I looked at it and smiled, because it represented the best, worst gift I'd ever received. The insult that had finally pushed me to claim the life I deserved. Patricia had tried to put me in my place. Instead, she'd helped me find it. And my place, it turned out, was exactly where I was free, fulfilled, and finally completely myself. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to the channel. Share your thoughts in the comments below. How would you have handled this situation? When is it time to walk away from toxic family? Let us know where you're listening from, and click the next video to hear another story about dignity, revenge, and the power of knowing your own worth.